Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here on this Friday with you. It is weekend 4 of college football. Lots to talk about, lots to cover. We're going to do that in the next 2 hours. Got a great lineup. Jimmy Hodge with us, Frank Duffy checking in from St. Augustine, poolside or mobile or whatever, down in St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest city in America. I don't even know if they have a Waffle House there, but then we're going to be joined in the 8:30, the second segment. Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers. Lots to talk about there. And top of hour number 2, Franz Beard, the Iron Duke from down in the swamp, Gainesville, previewing that Florida-Tennessee matchup. And I tell you what, I was watching Billy Napier's press conference yesterday. He's got a lot of family in Tennessee, some of them tobacco farmers up there. I'm not sure who they're going to be wearing, orange and white or orange and blue. It's a good question, but, I don't have Billy Napier on the show today. I wish I did. But Mark Ham will check in with us in the 4th segment as they are out there getting ready with the butts, the ribs, and everything. Largest tailgate up on the hill in Knoxville. So lots to talk about. Do us a favor. Give us a follow on Twitter at @sidelines_live. Thanks to all of our listeners and our great sponsors. We're blessed to have a bunch of them. And we're here to help you grow your business. If you're interested in being a sponsor, let us know. Rob Browne Sidelines, ROBBROWNE Sidelines with an S @gmail.com. All right, Frank, yesterday an ominous, eerie text was delivered to my phone from the unknown source. It said LSU was walking the plank, the green mile, as Gordon always talks about. And they were going to walk the green mile at 12 o'clock p.m. And even Carl Childers had left the shed and was waiting with his coat hanger on his AM radio for the breaking news. I kind of want something good to happen to LSU.
I have my Kaiser blade handy just in case, too. Hey, no, by the way, I can answer that question of whether they're Tennessee fans or Florida fans. If they're orange bib overalls, they're Tennessee fans. If they're orange jorts, they're Florida fans. That's how you can tell that difference. No, you're exactly right, Robin. I texted you. My sources deep inside the Charlie McClendon football operation sent out the bat screen up onto the western sky and said, "All right, it's coming down at noon," and it did. And frankly, it was a whole lot of nothing. Slap on the wrist. It's kind of almost comical to think in, fast forward 2 years of what we're seeing now with NIL and all the different deals that are going on. It's the Wild Wild West. Well, we wound up getting a 1-year probation based upon, get this, an assistant coach helping a recruit's parents on figuring out where would be a great place to buy a house, and he just happened to show them their neighborhood. Now, this was during COVID. That's what all the big rub was. You were not supposed to have any contact during COVID through that debacle. And then the other thing was they got them some logo apparel wear. Now, mind you, most recruits that are coming in, they're doing dance shows and they've got everything on. They got their entire uniform that they're going to have the next year as freshmen on. It's comical. It like you and I talked about it earlier today. You used the best word possible to explain the NCAA, feckless. And that's what it was. It's like, hey, we still have some teeth here. We can still do some things. Most of it was all self-imposed by LSU. We've already done our probation, for the bowl ban. We did it in 2020 when we qualified for the 5 and 5. So really, it's a whole lot ado about nothing. I don't think anything of the Darius Geis stuff has come out yet, or at least I didn't see it in that. If it is, it was buried. So that's a possibility that still has to come. And all of this, of course, was ferreted up by the Will Wade, wiretap situation. And frankly, with the exception of maybe Verge Osbury, everybody and anybody that's involved with any of this stuff is already out of the football program. So it's a whole lot to do about nothing. It's the NCAA, flexing their teeth. Now, of course, their teeth have to be put out, taken out at nighttime and put into and soak in a glass of water, overnight. But yeah, they had to show what little teeth they have left in this dying power vacuum that they seem to find themselves in.
Yeah, and that's a great analysis of a wrap up of what happened at LSU. And another thing, the NCAA, they don't have subpoena power, and they never have. So historically, you've had powerful schools turn in their rivals, and they just basically have a lot of circumstantial evidence, and they convict people. You can't do that, obviously, in our legal system, but it's punitive as legal as the legal system is. Yet they have no subpoena powers. That's why the NCAA, I don't like that. But I do think that they're good, like Steve Shaw, the coordinator of NCAA officials. That's where they're good, is kind of that administrative part. And I think, and I really want to get Steve Shaw back on the show soon. I know he's busier than a one-legged man in a kick fight right now. But I'm looking forward to getting him on here to talk about it, because we're not seeing nearly as many targeting calls, and football, again, it's a physical game, so they're doing that. But as far as LSU and other schools, there is also select there's favoritism, and LSU, hopefully they're done with this and the Darius Geis thing. That's all there is to it. Frank, Jimmy and I and everybody, we talk about college football on the show every day. You're part of the team. I was talking to Billy Roberts last night. He is this morning schedule that we're on is tough for him to be on with us. But up to this point, with what you've seen out of Brian Kelly, Jimmy's really high on him, and how could you not be? I've always admired. He's won everywhere he's been. He's at 265 wins. It's only 4 behind the winningest active coach, Nick Saban. Okay, so to this point, are you pleased with what is happening at LSU? I know you didn't win the first game, but I would think you're happy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think he's going to be a great hire before all this is over with. He's taken a business-like approach. Look, I think it was a big win last week. I was sitting in Tiger Stadium. It wasn't full. I was kind of upset with my fellow Tiger fans that we didn't have the east sideline, the upper deck full. I was kind of shocked with that. Especially for what would have been considered Brian Kelly's first SEC win. But yeah, I'm very pleased with what I see so far. I think he's done a great job at recruiting. That's the mother's milk of college football, as you know. And I think so far he's put together a good staff. I think they had honestly, I think we had an unknown, what we were going to find for the Florida State game. I think there was a feeling out period, but I think for what he's been able to come in and get, remember, we were decimated at the Kansas State bowl game. It was ridiculous how few, scholarship players we had out there. So for him to come in this short of a period, come do a great job in the transfer portal, and to get, the team to a position where they can win their first SEC game. And then now we've got another game this week, and then we go on the plains to play Auburn. If he can win those 2 games, you're going into hosting Tennessee. Tennessee coming in, you got 1 loss and it's out of conference. That says a lot. I think he's off to a good start. I think LSU fans are pleased with him. The little social gaffes, dancing with the recruit that went to Alabama, and my family. That's not a big issue for us. We're kind of fun loving. We kind of, believe me, we lived through quirky with Les Miles and Ed Ogeron for a long time.
Yeah.
This isn't quirky. This is just interesting. So I'm very pleased with what he's done so far, and I think he's going to do a great job. I think over the life of his time at LSU, I think he's got a lot of winning to do, and frankly, he could go down as the first LSU coach to win multiple national championships. We've had 4 of them, and we've had 4 individual, different coaches, and I think there's a possibility for him to accomplish that while at the old war school.
I do too, and I like it. LSU fans are what make college football so special, along with most of the SEC schools. And I think now Brian Kelly, regardless of all the off-field stuff people want to talk about, that has nothing to do. It's nothing wrong. The guy can't dance. Most of us have 2 left feet. Let's face it. You ever looked out there on the back patio at 2 a.m. at a band party at a Southern school. Everybody's doing the shuffle, you know. I mean,
hey, let me tell you something. Hey, Rob, if you're a little bit different, you just fit in Louisiana. That's all. We're all a collection of different characters, man. That's really what it boils down to. We don't have a problem with that. As long as you win, as long as you run a good program that's not going to embarrass us, as long as you beat that damn team that first week in November, let's face it, you know, as long as Saban's there, that's always going to be a bar under our saddle. And as long as you're able to, again, you know, compete for national championships, you don't have to win them every year. I mean, we're happy with winning one every 4 years as long as the national championship games in New Orleans. I mean, we'll be happy to do that, continue that trend. But as long as you're able to do that, and honestly, I see no reason why he can't come in and recruit and restock and have a run at that every year. I mean, there's no reason not to, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the talent level that we have in Louisiana. Jimmy will tell you. I mean, Jimmy, you know the talent level in Louisiana alone is enough to keep the cupboards, you know, full. And then if he's going out there, you know, his first 8 recruits this year were outside of the state of Louisiana.
It's the seventh.
So he can recruit on a national level.
Louisiana is the 7th most talent-rich state in America, behind Alabama at number 6. And you know a guy that knows a thing or two about a dance-off, who can really cut a rug, and that is Jimmy Hodge. Jimmy, I think we need to get Jimmy and Brian Kelly to do a dance-off before the Alabama LSU game this year. and it will be the morning on the Saturday morning show of Sidelines, and we'll put GoPros on both of them. Well, Jimmy's from East Tennessee.
Me and Phyllis did that back in 2019. I do remember that.
That's right.
I think Jimmy and Coach Kelly could do that.
Jimmy's an East Tennessee boy. He can do some clogging out there, I guarantee.
That's right.
No, I think I'll fake an injury like an Ole Miss player in that Tennessee game last year. You know,
the fainting goats.
Yeah. Not only one bad ankle, but 2. You know, and then throw some crutches in. You know,
and a headband. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, or a couple of Band-Aids. You know, and so forth. Yeah, but no, you know, I think that was a huge win for Kelly against a State last week. I never realized though that Leach and his gang were going to be bearing gifts. Though I mean, you can't ask for much more than a missed extra point, a game that's in the balance, and you fumble a punt away on your own 10-yard line.
By their receivers, a lot of drops.
Yes, and then going for it 2 or 3 times at certain positions on the field where they really shouldn't have.
Jimmy, it was like he didn't respect the game. Honestly, going for a 4th and 1 on your own, like 25-yard line in the first quarter. I mean, it's just crazy. He got that one, but he didn't get the other 2.
Yeah. And again, though, with all that being said, you can tell they're going in the right direction. They actually are trying to address the running game. I know the week before the LSU game, 2 of their running backs, Marks is a really good player. But they combined for like 110 yards rushing, and they're looking at it as more than just a side venture every once in a while. You know, I think they're really serious about it, and I think up front on both sides of the ball, they've always had pretty good size. But I think he's really trying to create a physical presence. So I really see them. Going in the right direction, and again, though, that fumble punt just completely flipped the momentum of the game, and it was just tough to come back from. But again, I'm telling you what, if you're in the Western Division and you're not ready to play every single week, you're going to find yourself in trouble, especially on the road.
Especially on the road. You're exactly
Frank, take it easy next week when you come to the Plains.
Hey, look, there's no telling what's going to happen in that game. You know, I like to think of myself as a pretty good prognosticator. I've been known to place a wager at the window or two. Podna, I have no clue what the hell is going to happen in that thing. There's absolutely, Auburn has boat raced us the last time we were there. I think y'all still scoring on us. And then last year's game, we pulled, defeat out of the jaws of victory. I have no clue what's going to happen. Harsin is like a wounded cat. We're going to find out now. We're going to find out now, again, I don't want to jump too far ahead because we got a game this week against New Mexico. in Tiger Stadium. But I will say we're going to find out what Harson's players feel about him on how they come out and play on 2 Saturdays from now.
Yeah. And guys, one thing that I've noticed in a lot of stuff out on social media is about don't take it out on the players, the fans. Everybody's worried that Auburn, that Jordan Hare, instead of having 90,000 like you had last week and 60,000 outside the stadium, I mean, people think that the 11 a.m. Auburn's already in timeout in the 4th week of the season. Okay. They're sitting over there with the dunce cap on right now, that the fans aren't going to show up. I can't go, but I'll be there the next week again at the LSU game. I'd love to be at every game. And I stay the full 60. It was like taking castor oil or going to the dentist and they're saying, Frank, we got to do that root canal, but we have run out of painkiller. It's the supply chain. Sorry about that, but we've got to do it. And we've got a DVD of the greatest calls of Mildred you can listen to while we're doing it. Just push me in front of a truck. But I mean, I'm worried about and I will say this. It's don't take it out on the players. I get that, but the fans, look at what it costs to go to a game. I mean, it's like fans have every right to be angry. They will get angry. But and then when you've got these players getting these NIL deals, you're getting into new territory, Jimmy. And I don't know how it's going to end, but I know that I'm loyal. Okay, look. We got to take a break. That stopwatch, Audrey just put it up here. I'm like, okay, we're going to take a break. We're going to get back to more of this stuff because, Jimmy, Frank, everybody out there listening, we love our schools. But if we ever get the sense that our players lay down during a game, that's when we got a problem, senor. And that's what we got to think about. Is are you seeing your team play a full 60? Hey, we expect them to play a full 60, though. We need to stay the full 60. We'll talk about it right after this quick break.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back with Jimmy Hodge and Frank Duffy. Frank, I know you got to go. You got to get on the Greyhound, and that bus is going to leave if you're not there. But you'll get there on time, I'll tell you that, as Maury Gaston says. I do worry, though, about fans not coming to the games. I mean, I'm going to see my school play. I'm not going to see who they're playing. I never have been about that, Frank. And you're just like that, too. Jimmy's just like that with Alabama. He doesn't care who they're playing. But if you're coming from Chicago, he would like it to be a bigger game than a rental win or whatever like that. But it's very important that we never quit back in our schools.
But Rob, you got 8 shots at home games, and maybe a couple of road trips that you can make. Ron and I try to make at least 7 or 8 games a year, and Bengal 1 or Bengal 2 when I don't feel like dragging that big beast around. And the RV, not Rhonda. And because she's not chuckling, I'm in deep trouble now. It's going to all the different games, and it's showing up, and whether it's Southwest Missouri State or whether it's Alabama, you only got 8 of them, and we're not getting any younger. I'm gonna be 62 before this season's over. I only got so many shots at this rodeo left. I'm not gonna miss them. And especially when I was up there for Mississippi State, Ron and I were in the south end zone, the Vaughn south end zone, and I'm looking up over across the stadium up to the upper east deck, and it was empty. Now, I do appreciate our friends in Texas A&M pointing that out on social media, of which they were saying that it looks like the upper deck at LSU is empty, and one LSU guy came back said kind of like the Texas A&M trophy case. But, it's still an embarrassment to have not have those fans there. So, I'm hoping that's not the case. Yeah, Section HD's had a lot of people take over, not wanting to go out to the games and having to put up with traffic and stuff. But let me tell you something. When you're in that place and that starts rocking, like when we got that fumble, and we were about 30 seconds away from the fourth quarter when we play, Whole That Tiger, our pregame, and then my buddy Dan Browne says the sun has found its home in the western sky. It's Saturday night in Death Valley. You can't get that sitting there watching on your TV. No. You got to show up to the game. So, hey, I will tell you this, Rob, before I run. I might be in Auburn a little earlier because it looks like that tropical storm's going to be coming right up Florida. So instead of leaving on Wednesday, I think we're going to get out of here on Tuesday. Being a veteran of hurricanes, being a New Orleanian, I know it's better to get out a day early than a day late. So we might be getting up there on the plains to start making that gumbo and start put that meat on the smoker a little bit early, brother.
Hey, look, we're going to get there Thursday night. We're going to look Lake Martin, the whole deal, and it's going to be great. But I'm with you. You want your fans to be there, and I think that's the number one thing is just forget. I mean, look, fans have a right to be mad, but don't not show up. But again, that's a protest people make. But I'm just a person that's crazy loyal and believes that your honor is dearer than your life. That's just how I am. I've got my schools back no matter what. And I'm not loyal to coaches because they come and go. But by God, if I ever see a player lay down and quit, I believe he should be shown the door immediately. But it also goes for fans. It's a two-way street, man.
And look, we said it before. You don't want to go, give your tickets to some youth organization, or give them to the Cub Scouts, or give them to the Boy Scouts, or I'm sure there's people in your neighborhood that would kill to go to the games. Give them to them. Let them go. Let them enjoy them. Don't just sit there and eat them. But I will say this, Rob. I also do try to I agree with you. When you pay your money, you get to go and do what it is you want. You can grouse and complain. But I do also have an issue. Like, I'll boo the hell out of my Saints if they're doing something wrong. But I try to curtail that with college kids that are out there, busting their hiney for the front of the laundry, not the back. When somebody makes a bonehead mistake, or they make an error or just a physical error, like we did numerous times at the Superdome against Florida State, basically cost us the game just on two Malik Neighbors punt receptions alone. But you try to remember, hey, look, these kids are out there. They're amateurs. They're out there playing. They're giving it their all. So you're exactly right. There's a thin line. But, come hell or high water, you got to be there for your team. If you're wearing purple on Saturday, you got to wear it on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. It's an everyday deal. And look, we all have gone through bad stretches. Hell, Jimmy remembers Alabama when y'all beat them 6 in a row. We beat them 5 in a row. And they were going through a cavalcade of Mikes as head coaches. Yeah. I kind of like those days, but you remember them, and you remember the latter Tuberville year that was up there. Oh, I remember Curly Hallman. It don't get any worse than that. So you got to stay through the tough times as well as the good times, because you never know when there's a 2019 right around the corner.
I agree with
magic
that.
Happens.
I agree with that, Frank. But here's like I said earlier. We've now drifted into this deal where these kids are getting these NIL deals, and I think this is a fad. NIL's here, but you're not going to see these gigantic deals like everybody thinks that are out there. Yeah. But if you see a guy and he's got some $3 million deal because it's all over social media and you don't see him giving everything he's got, and the first time you see a running back pull up short and run out of bounds a yard short on a fourth down, by God, you owe it to that school that gave you that scholarship. Not to the sponsor that gave you that NIL deal. And that's where we got to be careful. And that's where I will go absolutely BS.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'll go BSC on that one. Yeah.
Yep. That's an effort deal. That you got every right to get on them. As far as the play and, I give them a little slack on that. I try never to boo my Tigers in the stadium ever. And I'll retain my grousing to get on my text chain when we're leaving the stadium.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
You're exactly right. And now that they're getting these deals, and they have to function, they have to play, they have to show up, and it's really showing itself up in things like the bowl games and that sort of thing. So yeah, that rubs me the wrong way. I'll absolutely agree with you on that. But that's an effort and that's a decision as opposed to a poor physical play or some sort of execution problem on the field.
Yeah, and again, the three things you got to have to be successful in life: responsibility, authority, and accountability. If you're a scholarship donor, season ticket holder, you are paying for these guys' scholarships directly, indirectly, whatever you want to say. And it's just like that in the job market. If you don't see full effort, if you've got employees that come to work late and just sneak out, clock watchers, they're not really good employees. You want people that show up early and they say, I teach my kids this. I love to tell them this. When you show up to work, get there early and say, what can I do to help? And be willing to help other people. But now with this
Rhonda says that all the time.
Yeah.
She says that to our kids all the time. Go show up. Hey, find something to do. Show them that you're industrious. Show them that you're willing to put yourself out there. But you said the key word, Rob, and I honestly believe this: accountability. That's the key word in all of this is accountability. Accountability to your school, accountability to whatever NIL deal that you made.
Yeah.
Prime example. Again, congratulations to Keyshawn Butte. He had a little boy last night. And he's not playing in the game, on Saturday. Again, he took NIL money for a friend of ours, Gordon McKernan, an attorney. There's like a life leg. Coach Kelly gave it off, but that's the murky waters that you get in when you have these NIL deals. I'm sure that endorser, might have expected him to be out there 12 weekends out of the year. So we're all on the slippery slope. We're trying to toss it. We're trying to figure it out. But the one good thing, Jimmy and Rob, that we always have is what happens between the lines on Saturdays or Thursday nights or Friday nights. And that's what keeps us drawn into it, what keeps us coming back. That's what makes college football so great. We got to put up with the stuff around it and all the ancillary stuff. And that can be problematic.
Yeah.
But at least we got that on Saturdays, and what gets us out there. Let me tell you something. When we kick off at Auburn, I assure you, Auburn fans will be into it. LSU fans will be into it. There'll be no thoughts of sandbagging to get Harsin out. There'll be no grousing over, Brian Kelly, and his Southern accent. It's going to be on, and that's the way it should be. And that's what we love about this game.
Yeah. It is. And Frank, look, I know you got to get going. I'll just say the fans, when you look at these NIL deals, it's just, again, you're going to take that money. You better be ready for what's coming with it, because nobody gives you money as an employee. You're an employee without expectations of you doing great things. And I mean, look, I got people telling me now about people taking paternity leave. My wife looked at me and said, honestly, when my first child was born, I'm not kidding y'all. When my first child was born, I was in the labor and delivery room with my first wife, and my daughter was there, and I was on the phone, and I sold a block of 50 bonds, man. I mean, I was like going, people said, hey, are you crazy? I said, let me tell you something. That kid right there, that motivates me to get up earlier and work harder. That's the way I'm raised. That's how I'm wired. And that's how I expect people around me to be wired, or you're not going to make it. I mean, and that's what, look, Frank, I know we kept you long. I know I want to get Rhonda on here one time talking about how y'all's kids
are you sure?
Yes, because Rhonda's great.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
She's on the call with me. We're heading to a business meeting right now.
Hey,
are you sure?
We'll get we'll get Audrey and Rhonda on here together, and I guarantee you something. I think they could run the world. Audrey always says, hey, we can't care more than they care, and that's how it works. But it starts at the kitchen table. You can't let other people do that. By the time a kid gets to Auburn or LSU at 18 or 19, they're who they are. You can just make them better, but you can't start from scratch when you're 18. It's just hard to do.
That's right, brother. You got that right, man.
All right, look, y'all be careful driving down there in Florida, and we will talk to you here in the morning on the Saturday roundtable, okay?
Sounds good, buddies. All right, Jimmy, y'all take care. Have a great day.
All right, you too. All right, Jason Caldwell
Bye-bye.
should be checking in with us in just a second from inside the Auburn Tigers. And Jimmy, again, you look about we got on a rant there. I mean, and it's a lot of points, but what I'm seeing during the regular season, Jimmy, is the fans, all they care about is the college football. But it's you got a guy, and that's great that he's got a baby born. He's not going to play tomorrow in their game. Didn't an NFL player one time get in a lot of trouble for? I mean, I don't know. You as long as everything's okay, I'd be out there on that field. That's all I'm saying.
Well, there have been 3 or 4 occasions in the NFL over the past 15, 20 years. Mainly linemen, I think, were involved, and in a couple of cases it raised a ruckus, and then in the other 2 or 3 it didn't. I think in this case, if it was an SEC opponent tomorrow, it would probably be a bigger story. But I think right now against New Mexico, I know I know the company that he has the NIL deal with would like to see him out there, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be, a big deal, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
It's just a different time. But again, though, if it weren't New Mexico, I think he would have probably played. But again, that's just kind of where we are in this day and age. And, you just kind of go with the flow, and, they've got a big SEC game next week, and everybody will be focusing on it before you know it.
Yeah, you're right. Jason Caldwell's on with us now inside the Auburn Tigers. And Jason, we're just having an interesting discussion about crowds and everything. Frank Duffy talking about the LSU game. Not that many people in the upper deck, one of the upper decks down in Baton Rouge. But I hope Auburn has a full stadium. I was there Saturday. That was hard to watch, but I stayed the full 60. Call me a torture lover, a masochist, whatever, but I expect the team to play a full 60. I'm staying a full 60 till they've knelt for the post-game prayer and handshake after the game. Lots been going on this past week, but I'll tell you one thing about you, Jason. You cannot be talked into saying something that you don't believe, and you're a truth broker, and you get it with what's going on with Auburn. You've been getting it this whole time. Give us a report card on the Tigers heading into week 4 as you see it. Alabama Sports Writer of the Year.
Yeah, it's a team that has some pieces in place on both sides of the ball, but is lacking in some areas. Those are areas that have been building over 5 or 6 years, and we've talked about those areas. And it starts on the offensive line. That's still an issue for this team. It's probably more of an issue now than it's been even the last few years. It showed up Saturday against Penn State. The bigger issue for me is just there's something missing, and it's hard to put your finger on it. But when I look at it, I mean, obviously you can't turn the ball over a bunch and not get any turnovers and win games. It's just not going to happen. Auburn's very fortunate that week 2 was San Jose State, because if not, then they're 1-2, and this thing's even uglier than it is right now. You look at them statistically, they're at the bottom of just about every statistic in the country, and their schedule strength right now is 62. The rest of the schedule is 1. So it's not going to get any easier. And now you're going to do it without one quarterback for the rest of the way, another quarterback, I'm guessing TJ Finley, for at least a couple of weeks. I think it's going to be a couple of weeks at a minimum. So you now have a quarterback who's never started a game and a quarterback who's never played in a game. That's what you have on offense.
What's not to like about that?
Yeah. With an offensive line that's struggling, I think we'll see some new faces on the offensive line. I don't know that they're going to be young faces, but we may see some new faces in starting roles, maybe an Alec Jackson, somebody like that on this offense. Let's face it. I mean, Missouri's not very good. You should be able to win this game by handing the ball off Saturday. But also, their defensive coordinator, Blake Baker, is a guy that's worked with Harsin before. He's also Manny Diaz's disciple, meaning he watched what they did Saturday and says, well, we can do the same thing. If I'm Missouri coming in Saturday, I'm bringing guys from all over the house and saying, you're going to throw the ball, go right ahead, but you're not going to run it and win this game. And, I asked Brian Harsin on Monday, that game was still a one-score game in the second quarter. And Tank Bigsby got 5 carries in the first quarter and 0 in the second. Jarquez Hunter got 5 in the second quarter, but your running back's got 10 total carries in the first half, and it was a one-score game. And then you started talking about, we weren't in the meeting rooms and defense, and I completely understand that. That sometimes the defense, does things that take you out of what you want to do. But I also asked Austin Troxell the same thing, and he said, "Look, that's our identity as an offense. We got to be able to run it no matter what the defense does."
Yeah.
I've talked about it for years, going back to Gus Malzahn. This team's not going to win games if it can't run the football.
Yeah. Hey, Jason, hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break because you are spot on, and I cannot disagree with anything you're saying. More with Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back with Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers 24/7 Sports and Jimmy Hodge. And Jason, you're spot on. You can't argue with what you're saying. And granted, no, none of us fans and people that follow and report on Auburn are in those meeting rooms. But as an Auburn alum, fan, fanatic, it's in my blood. Watching that game Saturday reminded me, because I was there when I was a kid at the Auburn-Tennessee game in 1980, 42-0. And that game may have been completely different. I'll still never forget Danny Skutak, walk-on linebacker from Opelika, who later went on to win all those tough man competitions. And that's one of the toughest football players ever to play at Auburn. If he'd have had that pick six, it may have been different. But that prompted the hiring of Pat Dye. And that got people like, all these Auburn fans and boosters motivated that we can't take this anymore. Okay? That's how I felt in that game the other day. And in the fourth quarter, somebody yelled fire at Jordan-Hare Stadium. People pouring out. I haven't seen a mass exodus like that since the Texas A&M debacle 63-21 in 2012. Nothing will kill your program more quickly, though, than apathy. Did those fans show that they're apathetic? I don't think so. I think they're just angry. But what can Auburn do other than to win a bunch of games?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And here's what I've said a couple times this week. Had Saturday happened and they had signed a really good recruiting class last year and had lined up a bunch of guys in recruiting this year, then people would go, man, that was ugly. But now, but when those things aren't happening and you don't see those things happening with a very good year in state recruiting, you don't have, offensive linemen that you're looking at and going, those guys are ready to play now. When you don't see that, then you're going, okay, well, now where is it from here? That's the question I think people have, and rightfully so. When you start looking at it, that there's nothing else to it. You're not going to out scheme people. You're not going to out coach people. And I Kirby Smart, that's not Bill Walsh on the sidelines at Georgia. He's a good football coach.
Yeah.
He's a good football coach because he got really good players. And hey, if Nick Saban was the greatest coach of all time, and he is because recruiting counts, then he would have never lost games. And he has. His first year at Alabama, they lost Louisiana Monroe. Is he the same? And he's obviously matured as a football coach, but it's because he's got better players than everybody else. That's the key. The teams that win games have the guys drafted, and guys go to the NFL. There's no secret. Hey, Ed Orgeron, that was a really talented LSU team. That guy won a national championship with a team that many people think could have been the greatest team of all time. Where is he now? Because those players weren't there anymore. That's it. You got to get players. Just that's the bottom line.
I agree with you. Jimmy, jump in here with Jason Caldwell.
Yeah, and also it didn't help Coach O when Joe Brady left to go to the Panthers either, because that was lightning in a bottle that particular season. They just had everything that really came together for them. But, yeah, when you're talking about Auburn up to this point, you're right about San Jose State. I mean, this is a San Jose State team that hung on for dear life to beat Portland State. And for Auburn to come out of the gate the way they did was, it was very concerning. You know, they, of course, found a way to win it. But then last week against Penn State, despite the fact that, Penn State really controlled things, I felt, in the first half, it was still 14-6 at the half. And we've all seen Auburn just win more games than we could ever remember at Jordan-Hare under those type of circumstances. They would always come up with a big play or two and get the crowd involved and end up finding a way to win the game. But last week, I mean, I think Penn State's first play from scrimmage went for, 47 yards. And from that point, it kind of went downhill. But, Jason, I wanted to get your thoughts on this Auburn defense, because everybody felt that this was going to be the strength. And I was just curious if you felt that, mentally, the guys on the defensive side of the ball have this idea that, man, if we don't play perfect, we're going to have a tough time winning every week, because our offense has problems. We got issues at the quarterback position. And again, that second half would be a really tough effort, I think, to recover on. But I think that tomorrow is an absolute critical game for Auburn, because they have to come out from the opening kickoff and establish control in this game and have a solid effort, because I can promise you that Eli Drinkwitz, his coaching staff, and his players watching the tape of that Penn State game, they think they've got a solid shot to win this game, because last week their 5-star wide receiver freshman Luther Bolden had a huge game, kind of had a coming out party, and they also have a young wide receiver, Dominic Lovett, that had a huge game, had about 180 yards in receiving, and Brady Cook's a good young quarterback. So, I mean, it's really critical for Auburn to come out strong tomorrow and take control of this game, because, man, you talk about tomorrow being important, man, a week from Saturday, you're really going to know where you stand.
Yeah, I mean, this is a game that you looked at on the schedule, no matter what, said, man, you're in between Penn State and LSU. How do you respond in that game? Well, then how do you respond after the way they played Saturday? And, and we've seen defenses just kind of go, oh man, what are we going to do? Because the offense, not in week 3, maybe in week 10, when you're resigned to the fact that, man, their offense, this is not going to help us out a whole lot. In week 3, you got to do your job. And here's my honest opinion. I think they've got about 7 or 8 guys where I go, those guys go to war. There's just not enough depth, and they're not playing enough of those guys. And it may be because they don't think they're good enough. But we saw the same thing last year, and it happened to that team from week 5 on to about the last game. And people go, what about the Alabama game? And I said it then, and I'll say it again, and it bears repeating. that was Thanksgiving week. Those guys didn't have class. They didn't have to do all they did were in the training room all day long. That was the only week of the season after about the first 3 or 4 weeks where they were rested up, and they played like it. They're playing tired already. And I thought they got worn down in the second half, and they got to find a way to play some young guys on this defense and get them out there and get them going. If you don't, then it's impossible to ask defensive linemen, Derek Hall, Eku Leota, Colby Wooden, Marcus Hare. Those guys play really hard. It's impossible to ask those guys to play 90% of the snaps in a game and expect them to be really good in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and Jason, along that line, the calls for the fans, don't be angry with the players. Well, it's hard to say that. We know what we're capable of. All of us do. And people in their regular jobs, some days you go to work, you're not really there. But you owe it to yourself, to your family, the people that you take care of. You've got to find excuses to win. I use that term all the time. I got that out of a book I read a lot. But I just over and over, you look at it's because they're soft. I think that's what it is. You got you got 7 or 8 guys that are ready to go to battle every game. The rest of those guys, what are they doing there? I mean, your strength and conditioning program has got to get better. It's not about just going and bench pressing and stuff. It's the mental toughness that's missing.
Well, but here's the thing. That's where it comes back to recruiting. Alabama and Georgia's guys, they're not tougher. They're just better.
Yeah.
And if you're better, then you can be stronger and more physical and more athletic and more explosive because you got better players.
Yeah.
And that's it. You got more of them. You got more of those guys. And that's the issue. I tried to tell people all along, they're like, development. I'm like, and I've used this story before. I could have worked my entire life to block Reggie White, and I couldn't have done it because I'm not as good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. That's where good players and more good players and depth of good players comes into play. That's it. You can train all you want to, but if you're not better than that other guy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. If somebody has no speed, it's true. You can't coach speed. And I've seen that firsthand. But if somebody has ability, you can make them faster and learn how to be more efficient. But yeah, you got to start with good players. And you have chronicled better than anybody out there the demise of Auburn football in the last 4 or 5 years due to the lack of recruiting offensive linemen. Do this again for us. Compare the numbers in the last 4 years of offensive linemen signed by Alabama, Georgia, and LSU compared to Auburn.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and find it again. I don't have it offhand, but I do know Auburn's total because it's pretty easy to think about. I mean, they've got 2 commitments in this class, and they signed 1 player last year, and they signed 2 the year before. So that is, you're now in your 3rd class, and that's a total of 5, and 2 of those aren't on campus yet. So your last 2 offensive line classes comprised a total of 3 high school players. But I'd done it a while back. I think my total was somewhere around 7 or 8 for Auburn, and meanwhile, Georgia and Alabama were 25 and 23, something like LSU was like 19, something like that. I mean, it was that big of a difference. I'll have to go back and do it again because you're right. That tells the story. To me, that tells the story of this offense, and I talked about it before. I talked about Bo Nix, and I said, look, that guy covered up warts. He wasn't perfect, but he wasn't the main issue on offense. I think people are seeing now that guy covered up some of the issues that this Auburn offense had, and now they're showing up. Yeah,
and bottom line, to only recruit 7 or 8 compared to 23 and 25 offensive linemen in that time frame by your rivals, that's coaching / recruiting malpractice. Inexcusable. And you wonder why you're in this situation. Just connect the dots, Jimmy. Jump in.
Well, I agree. I mean, recruiting's a 365-day-a-year mission, and the majority of coaching staffs, to be truthful, other than the coordinators, are often determined by their ability to recruit because you have to recruit at every position, And all of these coaches have their certain region, but you have to be on it every single day. Whereas with the coordinators, now a lot of those guys are very active on the trail too, and that's an added bonus. But many times those guys are brought in by their sheer coaching ability and what their track record has been as a coordinator or as a position coach who did extremely well in developing players, and that gave them the opportunity to advance to a coordinator opportunity. But yeah, there is just no option. You have to be on the trail every single day. You've got to be in communication with the iconic coaches, not only in your state, but if you're at Auburn and you're 45 minutes, in certain direction, just from Auburn going toward Atlanta, you're maybe 12, 13 miles from the Georgia line. The border states, you have to know all the important coaches there. And Jason, we've talked about it constantly. From the time Harsin came in, they were not on that. They should have been immediately out there trying to establish those relationships. And if you don't do that, you're trying to play catch up. So again, they right now it's too late for any of that stuff. You got to try to get as good as you can possibly get on the field and get ready for each opponent every Saturday, and just try to find a way to get something going. And it's a tough slog right now, but again, that's why coaches get paid the type of money they do now.
Jason, I agree with that. And you just, these numbers, I mean, I just want to put my fist through the wall as a fan going, how can the school be that negligent in recruiting offensive linemen? That's like, that is like an insurance company not having deposits. I mean, most insurance companies, for every dollar they have $10 in reserve. And that's just foolish.
Yeah, I just went back and looked while we were talking, and going back to 2019. So that's 19, 20, 21, 22. That's 4 classes. There are 9 high school offensive linemen signed in those 4. Now, they brought in some junior college guys and transfers, those things. But nine high school offensive linemen signed. 2 of those guys, Justin Osborne, Kamar Bell, left after, I think, 1 year. Both those guys were going pretty early. So that's 7 remaining out of that group. I believe, if I'm correct, Keandre Jones and Tate Johnson are only 2 that have started the game. Tate Johnson has started 3 games in his career. So that's it. So that's the development part of things from the high school side of offensive line recruiting. Gus Malzahn is to blame, and the current coaching staff have now had a couple of classes to help to remedy that too. That's been a carryover, and it's a symptom of what we saw Saturday. People's like, how do people get bent out of shape after one game? It's not one game. That was kind of I use this analogy. That was the chicken box showing up Saturday after it's already been in your system. Now, as people can see it for the first time, that's the first time it really showed up.
Yeah, and I also like your description of Patrick Nix and that family. They're great Auburn people, and you're right. Patrick's coaching at Phoenix City Central. Bo just felt like I got to do something. I got one more chance to show the pro scouts, and I don't know. Now looking at it, you're as Carl Stevens would say to Suge Jordan on the South Central Bell Auburn Football Review. You're so right, Carl. And Suge would say that to him, and that's where Auburn is. I mean, look, we're going to do this, Jason. We got time. I got another question or two. We come back after the break because you have laid out the case. Again, if you were before the Supreme Court of the United States, you'd have a slam dunk victory. And you look around, it's not that Kirby Smart and Nick Saban are, are aliens, that they're just that much better. They've just got players that are that much better. And in a year when there are 22 4-stars and 7 5-stars in Alabama, and how many of those does Auburn have? We're going to talk about this after this quick break with more on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back here on this Friday on the weekend, number 4 of college football. Jimmy Hodge and I are talking with Jason Caldwell inside the Auburn Tigers 24/7 Sports, proud native of the Marble City, Sylacauga, Alabama. Let's look in state. It is a generationally big-time year for high school football in the great state of Alabama. And, Jason, last Friday night, by the way, Dr. Waller May and Susan May of the May Veterinary Clinic in Tuscaloosa, great Auburn folks. I was at the Northridge versus Paul W. Bryant High School game at Paul W. Bryant High School. What an impressive small college almost. It's so big. I saw Wilkin Formby. He was just right there in front of us. Big offensive lineman, 6'8", 315. Going to Alabama, man, I mean, this kid he was just so much better than everybody else out on that field. It was scary, but there are 22 4-stars, 7 5-stars in the state of Alabama this year. Where does Auburn stand with the top 10 players in Alabama?
Yeah, no, I think I'm looking. I think the latest, when you look at the top 10 guys, currently all but Quay Russaw and James Smith are already committed elsewhere. Now, that can change down the road.
Yeah.
But currently all 8 of the 10 are committed elsewhere. Obviously Alabama has 3. I think Georgia has 1, Clemson has 1, Florida has 1, Florida State has 1. Auburn is in the mix with James Smith and Quay Russaw from Carver Montgomery. Those are 2 5-star guys, 2 of the top players in the country.
Yeah.
But currently you look and there's, out of the top 30 players in Alabama, Auburn has 2 commitments. Number 15 in Jeremiah Cobb, running back from Montgomery Catholic, and number 21, Braden Joyner, offensive lineman from here in Auburn High School. After that, they're in on a couple of guys, but you're looking at maybe, I would say best case scenario right now would be 4 of the top 20 players in the state, which is not good enough. That's, it's bottom line.
Yeah. And I don't think it was ever that bad at the height of Coach Bryant's run in Alabama. I have never seen a more obvious. Chuck Oliver, our friend, Southern Sports Today up in Atlanta, said on the show about a month ago, in the last 40 years, he cannot ever remember the talent gulf between Auburn and Alabama being so wide. And then you hear stuff about Harsin and the coaches. A lot of the, we all know about that social media thing from the Athletic, all these coaches. We just don't see them, whatever. But I tell you what I've heard about in Georgia. What happened last year at the Georgia High School Football Coaches Convention, which is a big deal. How many Auburn was Brian Harsin, and how many of his assistants were there at that event? Which is
I can't remember. I know we talked about it. There's so many things that gets right. I don't know that's the one. Yeah. There wouldn't have anybody there at that time. I think Zach Etheridge had gone over earlier. But yeah, I mean, there's been some missteps. There's no question about it. And I think it's part of learning how to do things in the Southeastern Conference, how to do things at Auburn. And you got to figure out, you might think you're working hard, but you don't really know what the other guys are doing. And I think they've improved. They've done some things in the last 6 months that I think are much better than they've done in the past. But the question is, do you have any fruits of that labor? That's the thing you have to look at now.
Jason, again, you, Mark Murphy, Philip Marshall, Stat Tiger, the whole 24/7 sports crew inside the Auburn Tigers, y'all are the rock of stability when it comes to seeing what goes on at Auburn. You don't jump to get things first. You don't say stuff till you got it right. And if you don't know, you're classy enough to say you don't know. If, God forbid, Auburn were to lose to Missouri tomorrow, what would happen after that game?
Yeah, it wouldn't be good if Auburn doesn't beat Missouri. Then you start looking at this schedule, going, where do you seed one? Quite honestly, I think Western Kentucky's probably as good as Missouri. They're probably not as good defensively, but they're going to score more points. There's not many wins left on this schedule. I think it would be the howling would go from pretty loud to a roar in a matter of minutes if they don't win that game on Saturday.
Well, I mean, you got to. It's tough. You can't pull against your school because you want things to change, but you look at this recruiting, that top 30, those numbers that you give, when you're getting out recruited in your own state by other schools who are out of state, you've got a problem. And if you're not honest about it, it's going to only get worse. And that's just where we are. But Jason, parting comments, let people know how they can follow you on social media. Alabama Sports Writer of the Year, folks, Jason Caldwell, as good as it gets. And I want to tell you how much we appreciate you taking time to join us every week. Lots of people, my phone's blowing up saying, I love this guy. I may not like what I'm hearing, but I feel like he's honest, and he's got my respect and mine too. So Jason, thank you so much.
Yep. You can check us out at autigers.com, auburnundercover.com, as well as Auburn 247, and can also follow me on Twitter at ITATJason.
All right, Jason, have a great weekend. Look forward to hearing about a win next week. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's switch gears. Head down to the swamp, and we won't back down the swamp, Gainesville, although the purple porpoise is no longer the Iron Duke. Franz Beard is on with it. And Franz, we're going to keep you on a little bit longer today if you can. We're going to head up to Knoxville at about 25 or 30 after in this second hour with Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. Mark Ham, they're up there getting they have the largest tailgate up on the hill in Knoxville, and they're getting ready for this Florida game coming in. And I think a lot of people looking at that 10.5-point line thinking Tennessee's going to roll, but to borrow the great line from legendary Florida play-by-play man Mick Hubert, oh my, not so fast, everybody. And Lee Corso says it. Gators ain't going up there to be a sacrificial lamb in Knoxville. So let's talk about this big matchup. And you know what? I saw Cole Kubelik put something out on Twitter about people are asking, why is everybody making a big deal about this game? And he pointed out the 95, 96, 97, 98, all those top 5, top 10 matchups. And I said, it's going to be a big game until it isn't. Even though Florida's won 16 of the last 17, from Tennessee's perspective, they're looking this game squarely in the eye and saying this could be a monumental shift, a paradigm shift in the history, in the fortunes, in the future of Tennessee football. Franz Beard, you're up on the clock. Let's go.
Well, this is their Super Bowl. No question about it. This is their Super Bowl. And it has to be, because guess what? The NCAA on October 20th is going to look at their appeal for those 18 major violations. We're not talking about 18 little bitty ones. We're talking about 18 major violations. They can't put Cleveland State on probation for another year because of, if it were 2 or 3, they could. This is 18. This is like we're talking about, record-setting territory for recent, and if they had dug a little deeper, they could have probably found another 100 of them, because Jeremy Pruitt, the program he was running there. Maybe a nice guy, probably a good defensive coach, but let's just say he may have bent a little rule or two here or there, maybe a lot. And they're going to get the NCAA hammer. I mean, it is going to drop, and they better enjoy whatever bowl game they get this year, because they may not be going to one for a couple, 3 years. That's just reality that they face. And in the meantime, they got to deal with the Gators. And I'm not saying that the Gators certainly have not played well the last 2 weeks. But here's the thing you can say about them. They've played a tougher schedule than Tennessee. You look at this. Florida's got played 2 top 10 teams in Utah and in Kentucky. Kentucky's now number 8. Utah was 7 at the time, but they're 13 now. South Florida is better than either of those 2 teams from the Mac and Cheese. What was that? They played Football State and the Akron Rubber Company or something. Firestone. The Firestone Country Club up there.
The Zips.
Hey, they don't call them the Zips for nothing.
That's right.
Well, John Adams said that may be the worst team that has ever come to Neyland in all the years he's been with the Knoxville News Sentinel, which I guess is about 30-something years now.
Yeah.
And John Adams said that was the worst team they've played. Well, South Florida would wipe the floor with either one of those. So Florida's played a tougher schedule. Now, I grant it, they won the game at Pittsburgh, but let's face it, maybe that's a different outcome if Kedon Slovis is healthy and plays the whole ball game. They played the second half with a Pitt quarterback that was gimpier than I am, and I'm 71 years old.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah, and their center missed most of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a mash unit at the end.
Yeah, they needed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the middle. That's what they needed at center.
I was really surprised that Tennessee didn't really win that game easily, because they had scored on 4 out of their last 5 first-half possessions and did not score a touchdown in the second half. I will say I was really surprised that Tennessee did not win easily. But I tell you what, being at home, they're going to be in a mood to try to settle some scores, or at least for one season anyway.
Let me say this, friends. Maybe it's not a good idea that we have you on with the Tennessee tailgate report. We're going to have Jimmy and I have the like the old studio wrestling in Memphis on Saturday mornings with Lance Browne and Dave Browne and Lance Banana Nose Russell, mandatory 10-count referee Terry Calhoun out here. We're going to let y'all 2 go at it. But one thing about it, my wife over here is Evolve for Life, and she wanted to know if, when Jeremy Pruitt was handing out the McDonald's bags of cash to recruits, allegedly, did they supersize those meals for the really big recruits?
They should have. And here's the thing. Tennessee could still, I'm not saying Tennessee is incapable of boat racing the Gators. They are. But I'm also looking at this. Florida has a plan, I believe, to go in there and run the football. If they can get Anthony Richardson outside the tackles with a run-pass option, I think Florida wins this ball game, and that's going to be the key, getting him outside the tackles. Because if they can do that, and he doesn't have to hit a lot of passes, he just has to hit a few critical passes, and he can't turn it over. But if he can get out there, I'll tell you what, 6'4", 240 pounds against 6 foot, 180 pound cornerbacks, that is unfair. Basically, when Anthony gets a full head of steam with his 4.3 speed, he is like a runaway truck. And I think that is the key for the Gators, because if they can keep the chains moving and they don't turn the ball over and they can consume time, they've got a chance. Because if you don't have the football, you can't score points.
Yeah. Well, I think this game, everybody better be real careful. It's not that easy. It's not like Thanksgiving dinner where you're going to show up and the ladies have been back there in the kitchen getting everything ready for you, and this beautiful meal is going to be waiting for you. You're going to have to earn it. And the visiting team coming in, Florida, is coming in on guard. I mean, they are, not scared, but they know what they're walking into. Some of them do. But this is the first true road environment for Anthony Richardson as a starting Gator quarterback. And he's had great rushing stats, over 100 yards against Utah, 4 yards against Kentucky, over 100 against South Florida. They got pushed. This is look, when people say, well, Florida doesn't look that good, obviously they're struggling, or Dan Mullen wouldn't have been relieved of his duty as the head coach of the Gators. You don't get rid of coaches because they've got tons of talent and they're winning. You get rid of them because they're not recruiting and the cupboard's not bare, but it's mostly bare in a lot of key places. I mean, this is going to be a much tougher game than people think. And I wouldn't be surprised, just the way football goes, and Jimmy, you jump in here, if Florida doesn't jump out on top early. Just remember a few years ago when Will Muschamp went up there with a not so good Gator team and won 9-7 or whatever, and just shocked everybody.
10-9.
10-9. Okay. Yeah. In 11 innings. Okay. But anyway, it was, look, the Gators, Billy Napier, I watched his press conference. He's got a lot of family from up there. He's from North Georgia. Got a lot of family, his mother's family, tobacco farmers from Sparta, Tennessee. I mean, they know he knows what they're going up against. Now, again, Tennessee, I hope, for the sake of Tennessee and the NCAA, how selective they are, I hope Tennessee will get credit for time served, because they got rid of a lot of 9 coaches, and Phil Fulmer stepped down as the AD. I'll just say this, former football coaches who can't let go, you got to let go. I mean, I don't know what would happen if Coach Bryant would have lived another 15 or 20 years, but he died 30 days like he always said he would. He said, I don't ever want to retire. I'm afraid I'll croak in 30 days. And he died 30 days later. But when you win, you got to step back. And if you're the athletic director or whatever, there's other ways you can show your support of your school. Okay. And I think Tennessee, again, for their sake and for the SEC, we don't need to see that brand, punished with some god-awful penalty. I mean, LSU thought they were going to get the hammer yesterday, and they didn't. Tennessee, you look at it, and by the way, Jeremy Pruitt, my wife, and I'm a big fan. I think he's a great coach. He screwed up at Tennessee, but he's going to go get cleansed. He may go back to the Saban Rehab Center, but he's going to reemerge as a coach. He's been named #1 recruiter in the nation on several occasions. He went to the Joe Stalin School of Charm and Wit. That's his thing. He needs to work on his delivery a little bit better, but he can flat out coach. So we're going to talk more with Jimmy and Franz after this quick break. Gators versus Vols.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
We are talking with Franz Beer, GatorbaitMedia.com, also on the Buddy Martin Show with our good friend Buddy Martin and Ben Troop, Monday through Thursday nights on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, everything, BuddyMartinShow.com. Sign up, subscribe, and you'll get a Twitter notification right when they go on the air. Tap on that button. It beats anything that I see on my color TV, even when the neighbors have the blinds pulled down, because, cable is mighty expensive. A lot of cord cutters out there. But anyway, Franz, all that aside about Tennessee and everything like that, we're going to break this game down, and you and Jimmy and I, just real quickly, Cliff Note version. What is it that makes you think Florida goes in and gets the win? Because everybody can't be right at the same time.
Well, Florida's keys are very simple. First and foremost, get Anthony Richardson outside the tackles. Second, they've got to avoid turnovers. Third, they're going to have to hit some passes. And Anthony has had some issues throwing the football. I think his issues have largely been kind of like that pitcher who gets in there and all of a sudden he can't find the strike zone and he starts trying to aim the ball. That never works. Every time we see pitchers do that, they end up getting shelled and they end up getting sent, pulled from the game. The bullpen comes in and relieve them. Well, Florida doesn't have a bullpen right now because Jack Miller has been injured. So Anthony has been very hesitant to run, but I think they have pulled the wraps off of him this game. He's going to have to run the football. The third thing that's going to happen is this. Florida has got to get Tennessee off schedule at least a couple of times early on, and they have to play with the lead. I don't know that Florida can come from behind, even though, they have been good. They were good about coming from behind against Utah. They had to come from behind against South Florida, which shocked everybody. But this is a different kind of come from behind when you got a team that has the athletes that Tennessee has. So Florida's got to play from the lead. And the third thing that's going to happen is this, is the Gators have got to set the edge. This is something they haven't done in any of their 3 games. The quarterbacks have gotten outside the tackle box, and when that happens, Florida has really, really suffered. Florida's only really given up one play all year when the quarterback stayed in the pocket, and that was that play against Kentucky. It was a 53-yard touchdown pass. But here's the thing about that touchdown pass: Florida was supposed to have over-the-top safety help, and the safety froze. And if you watch the video of that, you'll see there's Jalen Kimber up there by himself, and you see a safety running with a brown streak down the back of his white pants because he realizes that, oops, I may have made a teensy little mistake here. Florida gets, you look at this. Florida gave Kentucky 23 of its 26 points. Absolute gifts. If they're 3-0 right now, and people might, even though they are winning ugly, people say, "Uh-oh, this game, look out here." But Florida's 2-1. They had an ugly loss, and they had a win. And they had a win against a South Florida team that everybody says isn't that good. So
Jimmy,
they're capable, but are they capable of winning on the road? And we're going to find out.
Yeah. Jimmy, 60 seconds or less. We're going to do a little rapid fire with Franz. I got more questions, but 60 seconds or less. Make your case why Florida beats Tennessee tomorrow night in Knoxville, where Ed Kaiser, Gary Maloney, and Jeff Heimbach went for a couple of quarters.
Well, they're going to have their hands full. They're going to have to be successful in the passing game because that's where Tennessee is the most vulnerable. Their cornerbacks can be thrown on, but your quarterback has to have the confidence to be able to do that in front of 100,000 plus fans. And Up to this point, he's thrown no touchdown passes. He's thrown 4 interceptions, and he's a little shaky on his fundamentals. Franz knows as much as anybody that, last week the one throw in the middle of the field was off his back foot. Then he made the bad decision on the goal line. He has to, and of course, the hay's in the barn now as far as preparation goes. But every single day in practice, he has to focus on nothing but solid fundamentals in regard to passing, getting his footwork right, stepping into throws, getting his shoulders squared to the target he's throwing to, getting the good solid overhand motion, and repeating that hundreds of times every week so that in a game he doesn't lose confidence in doing that. He can repeat what he's doing in practice hundreds of times. If he can get the passing game going, they've got a chance. But if they can't get the passing game going, Tennessee's going to put 8 guys in the box. They're going to play the receivers man-to-man and dare Anthony to try to beat them with the passing game.
All right, Franz, next for you. You look at Florida's defense, their front 7. Compare them with what Tennessee's going to bring. Rodney Garner develops defensive linemen. He recruits them and develops them. Not everybody does that, and their surge is pretty good, but compare them as you see them.
Well, I think that Florida's defensive line is a problem area, mostly because there's been bad recruiting at the defensive tackle position. Now, Desmond Watson all of a sudden came alive. The lights went on in the South Florida ball game. Now, he had some moments in the Utah game at the goal line, but he's lost 40-something pounds. Now, get this. He came to training camp at 413. He left training camp at 450. Now, how do you gain 37 pounds during training camp? That's anybody's guess. But he has the lights have gone on. He's lost 40 plus pounds since the season began. I mean, he really has done it. He may be under 400 pounds now, and he is 6'6". He is an absolute mountain. And if you saw him, it went viral. The body slam of Jerry Bohannon, it looked like something. The only thing missing was Gordon Soley talking about an atomic elbow drop, and so forth like that.
Yes, correct. I saw that. Jimmy, you've seen that. I mean, that looked like Jimmy when he played.
Well, the greatest wrestling announcer of all time, Gordon Soley. I mean, golly, if you could have him as a color analyst describing a tackle like that, I mean, it would be priceless. But Franz, why is he wearing number 21?
Because that was his brother. He has a brother who had an injury and he could no longer play football. And he wears 21 to honor his brother because that was his number. And, I appreciate that. I mean, he looks like he needs to wear number 1008, because he's that wide. But he is an absolute mountain of a kid, very soft-spoken, quite intelligent. I got to tell you what, he's very, very smart. This is what Utah people told me. They said he has the heaviest hands of anybody they've ever seen. And they said when he hits that center, he knocks the center back every single time. Now, if he can stand up to the tempo, and that's going to be the real question with him. If he can play, say, 3 out of 5 plays against Tennessee, Florida's got a chance to stop the running game. But if he can't play that, then I think Florida's got real problems on its hand. And the other thing is Florida's got to set the edge. Brenton Cox Jr. has been chasing quarterbacks and doing a good job of making tackles. He doesn't have a single sack. He's got a lot of quarterback pressures. But here's what he hasn't done. He has not set the edge, and people have gotten out on the perimeter on him. And if he can't set the edge against Tennessee, Florida is in trouble.
Yeah, and this contest, again, you start breaking it down, and the big guy there in the middle, number 21, he can't do it all. I mean, he can't run sideline to sideline all game, all night long, not at that weight. But we know what Jordan Davis did last year at 6'7", 340 something. He was out there 35, 40% of the snaps. His job, simple. Put Georgia's opponents in third and long. And he did that. But you know what? That kid's first love would coming out of Charlotte, North Carolina to Georgia. He was a 3-star. He was a big-time basketball player. Great footwork. And that's what you got to look at. And Jimmy and Franz, I beg to differ. The greatest wrestling announcers of all time, if you are from Memphis in the Mid-South wrestling, or Lance Banana Nose Russell and Dave Browne. I mean, nothing was better than referee Jerry Calhoun, Jimmy Hart, handsome Jimmy coming into town. But I'll leave it at that. But
hey, I saw them as a kid when I was at my grandparents'.
What'd you think?
Summers.
They're great, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, there's nothing like Gordon.
Oh, I
Solie,
know.
though.
I
mean,
know.
he goes,
I know. You're right.
Oh, gut wrench salto, devastating move. And then he goes, you can see that hold on the maximus gluteus muscles being stretched, and this is such a dangerous headlock. You can see oxygen being cut off to the brain. I mean, nothing like it.
Well, but the best, and again, Dave Browne and Lance Russell, here he comes, Plowboy Frazier. And I mean, Plowboy Frazier was the best, wearing short pant overalls with combat boots. And he weighed probably 400 like that big Florida defensive lineman. Franz, like Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, Mark Ham should be joining us momentarily here any minute. But a lot of people texting me, hearing all these stories about wrestling just evokes a lot of great memories. And, we used to go down there on Saturday mornings and watch it in Memphis. You talk about pure entertainment, loser leaves town match, a hair match, chairs being smashed over people's heads. And Franz, now you're older and wiser than me and Jimmy, but that was all real, wasn't it?
Of course it was. We had this match in Savannah when I was with the news press there. The Monroe brothers, Rocket and Sputnik Monroe. I don't know if you remember them, but they're in a tag team match at the Savannah Armory. And Sputnik is in the ring, and he is trying to tag out. And there's Rocket reaching hand out there, can't do it. And this little old man, and he must have been 80 years old, and I'd say he, on a good day, he probably weighed 111 pounds. Comes up there and picks up his cane, and he whacks Rocket on the butt. And Rocket turns around and goes like this at him, and the old man just kind of backs off a couple steps. Well, Rocket then reaches back in there. He's going to tag out with Sputnik, and the little old man comes up there and he whacks him, and he has X'd his butt with that cane. And Rocket jumps down off the ring, and he is going after the little old man. This little old man takes his hand like this and go boop, and gave him a black eye.
You can't make this stuff up, man.
No, you can't. It was wonderful.
And you know what? Speaking of Savannah, historically, the significance of that city, it was laid out on a grid. And our friend Ben Troop lives over there. And I'll tell you one thing, when Ben Troop's on this show, it wakes you up to student athletes and how special these people are. Because, man, that's fast becoming one of my favorite people. All right, now, got to ask you this about this Florida-Tennessee game. I mean, Tennessee, whatever the NCAA does, I hope I think the damage has been done. And I think the trend is hopefully they're going to get credit for time served. Okay. That's what I hope happens. But Jimmy, I'm going to throw this one at you real quick. Because Mark's going to come on in just a minute. So when he does, we'll go right into him. give me your thoughts on Tennessee, why in year 2 so quickly they are playing so much better, and what is the biggest concern you have against Florida before we go to Mark Ham?
Well, again, I mean, the reason they've been so successful is that they've got an outstanding quarterback that they discovered in Game 4 last year in Hendon Hooker, and they got a really good scheme. And Heupel has just really created a lot of confidence among the skill players on the offensive side of the ball. They set a bunch of school records last year, and they're kind of picking up where they left off, except for that second half against Pitt, and so they have a lot of confidence. But I do think that Tennessee defensively, though, we've talked about it, and Jimmy Himes has talked about it a lot. In that secondary, they have to shore things up, and the corners are very vulnerable, and they've got to try to figure out a way to improve there. But we all know that the best pass defense that there is putting the quarterback on his butt, or either forcing him to throw the ball before he wants to. So that's what Tennessee has to do. And I think Florida, by looking at the tapes, they realize they do have some opportunities in the passing game. If, Anthony feels confident about staying back in the pocket and throwing from there, or if he wants to try to get outside and give himself run pass options, but he still has to make good decisions on when and where to throw the ball.
Yeah, what you don't want to see happen is Gus Malzahn took Jeremy Johnson to SEC Media Days, and he was a Heisman candidate before he even played a snap. And to this day, and I've watched a lot of football since I was born, I have never seen a quarterback throw a backwards pass. And I actually witnessed Jeremy Johnson do that in the LSU game in 2015. Anthony Richardson, if there's anybody you want to be mentoring him, it's Billy Napier, to keep him calm, keep things in perspective. Y'all have had a chance to interact with Anthony. Seems like a solid young man. I mean, athletically, he's got all the talent in the world. And the most important 6 inches on that football field are what he believes between his ears. And if he can keep calm, I think he can be a big factor tomorrow night. We're going to be right back with more Sidelines after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back here with Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com, down in the swamp in Gainesville, where they never back down. Jimmy Hodge up in Lake Zurich, Illinois, right near the Wisconsin border. Jimmy, how close are you to Wisconsin?
20 miles.
You ever been over to Madison?
Oh, many times.
Is that place is pretty wild, isn't it, out there on the peninsula? I mean, what do they have? That's one of the wildest college atmospheres for a game. What do they do? Bounce in the second half or the fourth quarter? They bounce around.
Yeah, it's like Florida's sing along and sway along. We are the old boys of Florida at the end of the third quarter.
Hey.
Yeah, they do the bounce around.
Okay.
Jump around.
Yeah, jump around. Yeah. Franz.
Yeah.
Franz, was it Stephen Foster who wrote that song way down upon the Swanee River.
He also wrote My Old Kentucky Home and Carry Me Back to Old Virginia. And I mean, goodness, and he never saw a single football game in his life. And he did, and he look at all of his contributions to college football.
Yeah, I mean, and I tell you one thing, in the last year since we met with Buddy Martin, and then he introduced us to you, and then Ben Troop. I mean, I've always watched Florida, and I still remember, was it 1976 or 77 when Wes Chandler played at Florida, and they wore the cutoff, the midriff, tearaway jerseys. Chris Collinsworth was from Astronaut High School in Titusville. Another one, Wilbur Marshall, great linebacker at Florida, came from there. But all right, get the gloves on, gentlemen. This is a referee, Jerry Calhoun, with we've got Franz Beard, Mark, GatorBaitMedia.com in the Swamp, Jimmy Hodge in Lake Zurich, Illinois, and Mark Ham, Rocky Top, Tennessee Tailgate Report. We've been talking about this Tennessee-Florida game coming up. We talked a lot in the first hour about, Alabama's got Vanderbilt. We've talked a lot about that. We will more tomorrow as well. A&M and Arkansas. But the prime time up in Knoxville on the Hill, Tennessee and Florida. So kind of Jimmy and friends and I and the free world are waiting to hear how fired up is the Vol Nation getting ready for this big one. You've lost 16 of the last 17. How important is this game to the future of Tennessee football, to the state of Tennessee, and to the United States of America? Pretty big. Mark, you there?
Okay. Yes, sir. I'm here. I'm here. Sorry, I was talking to my buddy Ty over here. We're getting the smokers ready to start firing up for a lot of barbecue for tomorrow. I don't know if you can see them here or not, but we're getting ready to fire those up. It's going to be insane. I mean, we were looking back at some of our videos from a couple of years ago when we beat Florida back in 2016, and we were looking at after the tailgate. And it was pretty insane. So I think there's going to be a crowd that we've never seen. There's going to be 100,000 inside. There's going to be a bunch of people that are basically outside watching the game that can't get in.
And they'll be tailgating and drinking Ham's beer, of course, or whatever they can get their hands
That's
on.
That's
right. Mark, Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com. Make your case, and then I'm going to have Franz and you kind of spar back and forth here for a minute. But make your case in 60 seconds or less. We all know about the Cliff Note version, because when was the last time you read a full book? At least not Norton's Anthology of English Literature, unless you're having trouble sleeping. I suggest that one. But give us your reasons why, before the great Iron Duke Franz Beard, why the Vols will take down the Gators tomorrow in 60 minutes or less.
60 minutes or 60 seconds?
Yeah, we got to play the 60 minutes. Well, we could go to overtime.
I don't think I can talk for 60 minutes.
Yeah, 60 seconds.
Yeah. I'll give a disclaimer that, we always think we're going to win, and somehow they end up winning, on last second passes, you name it. But I think this year, it's just the fact that we have such a prolific offense. But, it depends on whether Tillman plays as well. Our best receiver's been hurt. So, if he's not in the game, he's a big threat. Our running game has been pretty good, but we went on the road at Pitt. We have some confidence. I think it's because the players really don't really look at it and say, "Hey, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that." I mean, this is a whole brand new culture, and I think kind of the way Josh Heupel was talking about it. He goes, "Look, it's going to be a game. It's important, but we're not going to worry about tradition. We're going to go out there and try to just win the game." Yeah,
Franz Beard, counterpunch.
I would love to if I had heard a single word he said.
Okay. All right. Well, he was just talking about the culture of Tennessee changing under Josh Heupel. And, Tennessee always thinks they're going to win against Florida. They hadn't won since 2016. They've lost 16 of the last 17. But he's banking on Tennessee's prolific offense to be the difference tomorrow night.
Well, it's going to have to be there. And it's Josh Heupel's calling card. When he was at UCF, he had great offenses, and he had great offenses with Drew Lock at Missouri as well. And that is his calling card. And their idea is they're going to wear you down by scoring points and keeping the pressure on you. And it's a great concept. What they call blur ball. The idea is to get a snap off every 18 seconds. It's averaging 20.5. And if you can't keep up with them, then they are going to wear you to a frazzle and you're not going to have a chance. And there's a lot to be excited about with Josh. I liked him when he was at UCF, and I thought he was a really good hire when Tennessee got him, because I thought that if Tennessee didn't get him, somebody else was gonna, and Tennessee got him. And here's one thing that I know a lot of people may disagree with me when I say this, particularly in the Gator Nation. We need a relevant Tennessee, because when Tennessee is relevant and Florida is relevant, Georgia is not going to completely dominate everything out there. And right now we have one powerhouse school in the SEC East. And there was a time when the SEC East was the power, but now it's just, it's gotten down to Georgia's there. Kentucky's a ranked team, but Florida and Tennessee are trying to get back up there. So we need a relevant Tennessee, and we need this rivalry to get back to where it was. And I love the hype that's coming in there. And trust me, these Tennessee fans, I know that they're going to do their part tomorrow. But that, if they get ahead, it's going to be really, really hard for Florida to win. Florida's going to have to play from the lead to even have a chance.
Yeah. Mark, did you catch all that? I know we were having a few technical.
I did.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and respond real quickly. We'll then I want Jimmy to break down what y'all.
No, I think that was a great analysis, and I agree. I think the strength of our offense is playing fast, and we saw that last year. The only team that really kind of put it to us last year when we were playing fast was Ole Miss. So we hope that, in the 70-degree weather tomorrow, that there's not a lot of, people out there with leg cramps. But I agree. I think if we can continue to push the ball, we got to get our receivers, in space. I kind of like it. And we always seem to have some pretty big plays. If we can get behind the defense and, Hooker can make those throws, and I think, we have a good chance. And if we can get up quick, it might be something, we can win the game, because, AR-15 has not, I don't think he's thrown for a touchdown this year. So, if we're out scoring a lot and they got to rely on the ground game, it might be a long day, for them. That's our hope.
Yeah, and it's his first conference road game. Jimmy, quickly, we're kind of bouncing around about 60 seconds or less. Break down something that you may have taken away from what Franz or Rocky Top Mark Ham said.
Well, I think Tennessee's going to put in some maybe new stuff for this game, change the alignments on every play, put different players in different positions to try to confuse Richardson, because, again, this is maybe his only sixth start, I guess, as a Division I player. So he's still relatively new to this, and this is I think easily going to be the most hostile environment that he's played in. And I can tell you, that it's going to be loud at Neyland. So he's going to be experiencing something he's never dealt with before. And you just got to hope that he can adjust to it quickly, and just hope that Napier can convince him that, hey, this is all about going out and playing football, trying to focus on what you worked on in practice this week, try to recognize the coverages as soon as you can, and just make quick, confident decisions.
Yeah, great. I agree. At Neyland Stadium, I mean, you think about it. 4 national championships. General Neyland at 27 years old was a divisional commander, had to be demoted, fought in 2 world wars, again, won 176 games. He had 109 shutouts as a head football coach at Tennessee. He helped chase down Pancho Villa. He went to A&M his freshman year and finished at West Point. Now, I've known a lot about General Neyland throughout my life, but I want to give a thumbs up to Peter Burns of SEC Network for putting that out, because he's got a huge platform to do it with, about the history, the tradition, the heroes, that our college football and that legend that is General Robert Neyland, who lived across the street from my good friend Uncle Charlie's grandparents up there in Knoxville. And there's a great picture that I covet, that I want. It is taken at the Andrew Johnson Hotel, Mark. It's General Neyland, Johnny Vaught, and Coach Shug Jordan from Auburn, all having a cocktail at the owner of the Andrew Johnson Hotel. Could you get that for me?
I will. As a matter of fact, I think my son said he can go in with his fraternity brothers and maybe get that for you tonight.
Okay. I bet they can. All right, let's do this. Franz Beard, I tell you what, you're a class act. And you, Franz, you've seen a lot of football. Mark, Jimmy, we all have. Again, let's bounce around quickly because we just got a few minutes left, Franz. Going into this environment, again, Florida's had some teams that weren't so great that beat some teams but Tennessee that were better in Neyland Stadium. How confident do you sense this group of Gators are?
Well, I think confidence is a fragile thing with a team that has a quarterback who's only started 4 games. This will be his 5th start as a collegiate quarterback.
Yeah.
Now, he did face Georgia last year, and he played pretty well against Georgia, except for 1 3-minute stretch. And this has been his problem. It was a problem at Tennessee. He played well, except for you could take 4 plays away and you could say he played a pretty good football game. So against Utah, he played very, very well. And by the way, let me throw one quick thing in. Florida had a coach named James Van Fleet, who was also went to West Point with Bob Neyland. And he's got statues erected to him in 4 different countries because of what he did in World War II and in Korea. And they were friends. They were close friends, and there's a great history and a camaraderie here. So, Florida's got its work cut out for him. No question about it. The Gators cannot go into this game thinking that okay, if we just do 1, 2 things, we get it done. They've got a whole long list of checklists that they've got to do well. Florida's got to play better than it's played all year to win this game. Yeah. And if they don't, they're going to lose.
Yeah. I got to ask you this, Mark. How big will the Vol Walk be? How crazy will the Cumberland Strip be? How many death dogs will people eat at the Pilot gas station at 3 a.m. when they're all bearded up? I'm talking about Ed Kaiser, Gary Maloney, Pat Muscari, friends of mine that made me go in there and eat 4 death dogs one time before the Auburn-Tennessee game, and we lost that next day. It was ugly, and I paid for eating those death dogs, but I know what Knoxville's like at Gus's and all those crazy, wild people on the Strip ready to take down the Gators.
Well, it's one of those things that years ago it used to be like this every game. I mean, it was every weekend. It started on Thursday with people coming to town and bringing RVs, and the Strip was packed with people. And then we went through a stretch of 3 or 4 coaches where we were just terrible, and the excitement wasn't there. I mean, we still averaged a big crowd, but again, I'll tell you, I always kind of look at it and view it through my tailgate, and I've had more people, and my buddy Ty's over here. We're getting the fire started over here. We're getting ready to cook all this barbecue up. It's gonna be crazy tomorrow. I mean, there's more people have called me and said, "Hey, can I come by your tailgate?" And it's just going to be insane with the number of people there. Terry Turner, our buddy, has sold more. He sold 80 tents, for this game, and they're not cheap. So it's going to be crazy. And I think there's going to be probably 40,000 people outside watching it on the big screen. So I expect it to be loud and really loud. So,
this is great for college football, Mark. And Jimmy, it growing up in Clinton. And this is what we love. And I got to say, tomorrow, we're going to get you back on reporting from the Hill. We'll have Buddy will be on with us tomorrow. And Stat Tiger is going to be on early in the show to talk about trends in college football.
Oh, and game day is here. Game day is already set up. I mean, they're going to be here tomorrow. So
yeah, it is going to be. Yeah, ESPN Game Day will be there. These atmospheres are what we love about college football. And you know what? All these people calling you wanting to come to the game. Mm-hmm. I would be selective and say, look,
Where were you? Where were you 5 years ago when I had 9 tickets and I couldn't give one away?
Absolutely. I'm just saying, if you want the team to play a full 60, you gotta stay a full 60. As Tommy A.G. said, when you play in Auburn, buddy, you're going to have to get down in the dirt and earn it and play a full 60 because we give you nothing but 110% of everything we got every game. You got that mentality, that state of mind, anything is possible. And I tell you what, Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com, follow him, people. He knows the Gators, the SEC college football, as you just heard. He understands tradition. General Van Fleet, General Nealon. And General Nealon, by the way, hats off to our engineers out there, had a degree in civil engineering, and he did help draw up the plans for what is Neyland Stadium. Not Neyland, Nealon, General Robert Nealon. And that's what I've always been told. It's General Nealon, like your knee, when you bend your knee. Hey, I want to thank everybody. Great show. All of our sponsors, folks like Gateway Tire and Service Center. They go the distance for their customers in the communities where they do business. And RedRiverFordToyota.com. Check them out. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wynn, Arkansas. They deliver all over. Go out and help somebody with the expectation to get nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Help somebody out this weekend, man. It's a great football weekend. Again, the College Football Roundtable kicks off tomorrow morning on Sidelines. Check us out if you miss us, 680thefan.com, sidelines.live. And we're on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and everywhere. We're having fun. We're out of here until tomorrow. Have a great one, everybody. Thanks for listening.
You guys.